This is a CBS News special report. I'm Norah O'Donnell. We are coming on the air with breaking news as Hurricane Helene gets closer to making landfall. It's already an extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane and is expected to bring catastrophic rain and winds when it touches down in Florida's Big Bend region. Helene will be the strongest hurricane to hit the U.S. in over a year. Now take a look at this. This is the view from the International Space Station, and you can just see how massive this storm is. Roughly 800 miles wide and 1,000 miles long. Tropical storm force winds extend nearly 350 miles from its center. And one of the big dangers is the storm surge. The forecast in Florida's Big Bend area remains at 15 to 20 feet. That is enough to cover a two-story house. We want to begin tonight with our Manuel Bojorquez. He's in Tampa, Florida, where the storm surge could reach some 8 feet. Good evening, Manny.
That's right. Good evening, Nora. As you can see, the Tampa Bay area is getting battered right now. And what we have noticed that is significant is that the water that has been lapping up over this seawall here is not going back into the bay. It is accumulating here. So this is the beginning of the expected storm surge, that 5 to 8 feet. When you combine it with the high tide tonight, we're told that the water will definitely come up to the level of these tables here and likely above it and cover this whole area. Already, officials have had to shut down some major roads and bridges throughout the Tampa Bay area. What does that mean? Well, for anybody who did not heed mandatory evacuation orders, well, their options to get to higher ground have probably run out tonight. They will have to ride this out in their homes, and there is a point where officials will not be able to get to you should you need to be rescued because of the danger that the water and the wind poses to them. You know, forecasters keep telling us over and over, yes, the wind speed and the intensity of the hurricane is important and destructive around the eye, but the water around greater areas, including here in Tampa Bay, that is what is the #1 killer during these storms. So we are going to practice what we preach, and now that the water, the flooding here is starting to get significant, Nora, we're going to toss it back to you and get out of here.
Good idea, Manny Bojorquez. Thank you for being there, and stay safe. Hurricane Helene is the most powerful ever to hit Florida's Big Bend region. CBS correspondent Jason Allen is in Crawfordville, Florida. That is just south of Tallahassee. And Jason, what's the latest there?
Nora, as we have these last few minutes of sunlight tonight, we are really starting to see the clouds blow across the sky. Now we are starting to hear the wind in the pine trees behind us. And the rain, although it is not heavy yet, it is steady, and it's starting to fall not straight down, but definitely moving in a diagonal. This is one of those areas in the Big Bend where that storm surge could reach that 15 to 20 foot level. That is why you don't see us by the water tonight. In fact, the Gulf Coast about 2.5 to 3 miles away from this position. That is a high enough surge that some of that water could get this far inland, maybe even beyond in the low-lying areas. We're in a good spot, a higher spot, but just down the road from us, the sheriff has warned people here that the water could pile up at a major intersection as much as 9 feet high. Nora?
And Jason, I know you've been talking to evacuees. What are they telling you?
We've been talking to evacuees for a couple of days who are presenting us with a very different attitude than what we see from normally storm-hardened Floridians. They often take these storms in stride. They're prepared for them, often riding them out at home. Not with this one, Nora. We talked to a number of people who have felt this storm is not one that they want to sit through. They have evacuated the area before it can arrive.
Glad they are heeding the warning. Jason Allen, thank you for that report. And with more on Hurricane Helene's projected path, let's turn to CBS's Lonnie Quinn. Good evening, Lonnie.
Good evening, Nora. I want to show you a picture right now from a spot that's quite a ways away from the storm. If we open this up, this is Fort Myers, Florida. This is a picture of what's currently happening outside in Fort Myers. They're 200 miles away from the storm. The storm has passed them. This is what's out there as of right now. So let's take a look at the precipitation signature of the storm. So the eye of the storm is off the west coast of Florida, all right? But look at that path of the rain. The rain goes all the way up into the Tennessee Valley. All of that related to one storm. There will be huge rainfall numbers, and the storm surge is going to be a big player here because as that storm tracks along, it's running parallel to the west coast of Florida. The best example I can give you, Nora, imagine you're out hosing down your driveway, okay? And there's a wall that runs along the side of your driveway, and you're spraying the water parallel to that wall. Well, the water just keeps shooting right down, right? Until it finds some kind of a 90-degree angle, and then it piles up. Mother Nature does not make 90-degree angles, but she comes close in the Big Bend area of Florida, and that's why we think we could be seeing all of that water gathering from the south and then just bubbling up to 15, maybe even 20 feet of storm surge in that area. But in terms of the other type of flooding that you get from a system like that, yep, storm surge, the number one killer, the most deadly part of a hurricane. Freshwater flooding, this is going to be a big player. As the storm pushes inland, it's putting more and more rain down. So where the eye comes on shore, Nora, that's where you're going to get the most intense rain. But it's a finite period of time. All right, you get the heavy stuff and then you move forward. However, for a place like Asheville, North Carolina, the center of the storm, Nora, is going to be decaying and sort of withering away as it gets closer to Asheville, but it's still putting down big rain. At which point it gets to Asheville and it turns to the west. As it turns to the west, now the bands come in to Asheville. Asheville will get rain from every which way in this storm. So often a storm has a calling card, Norma. We'll say, you know, Sandy was a storm all about the storm surge, not the wind. Other storms are more about the wind than the storm surge. This one, it's got everything. It's got storm surge. Unfortunately, it's got freshwater rain and flooding, and it's got big winds. I mean, the winds could be coming on shore at 130 miles per hour. I mean, the type of damage that will certainly affect roofs and structural walls of buildings. Anything along the shoreline, lots of structural damage and feet of water in those homes.
As you note, this monster storm is going to affect tens of millions of people. Lonnie Quinn, thank you so much for your reporting. And our coverage will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news. And then tomorrow on CBS Mornings. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm Nora O'Donnell.